Welcome to Democracy-ish. I'm Danielle Moodie.
And I'm Wajahat. And since we're all going to die, I might as well just enjoy my chai with 2 sugars today instead of 1.5. Because you know what? It's all inevitable anyway, right, Danielle? I mean, the only thing that's guaranteed in life is death. It used to be death and taxes, but then Republicans took away that. So right now, the only thing that's guaranteed in life is death. And you and me are definitely going to die. So let Joni Ernst live long, and you and me can just enjoy whatever time we have with your expensive coffee and my homemade chai.
Right. So, friends, if you're wondering, what are we talking about? So let us fill you in. So the Des Moines Register, big paper, covered Joni Ernst's recent, I'm assuming it was a town hall.
Yeah.
She's a Republican, where her constituents, as people do, show up at the town hall. And they're outraged, right, about Trump's bullshit budget, the fact that people are going to lose their Medicaid, lose their Medicare, lose SNAP benefits. Basically, under Trump's regime, Americans are just losing. Let's just say that, right? And in response, just imagine, like you honestly, you can't make this shit up. You couldn't make a parody right now. You couldn't make a Black Mirror episode or a Veep or like any show, because if trying to sell it, people would say that's too on the nose. You've jumped the shark. When asked about cuts to Medicaid, Joni Ernst's response was, well, we all are going to die.
You know
What?
what? It's it's a strange thing to say. When I heard that, I'm like, no. And then like what I often do, right? Just because, it's the bug in me that I want to like actually be accurate. And what's the point? Who cares about truth and facts anymore? But I still care. I'm like, let me double check.
I still care.
I double checked. I'm like, oh, there's video. So then we saw the video. Oh, she said it.
Yeah.
And then you saw Des Moines. Yep. And then you saw 3 or 4 more other people that I respect. I'm like, oh. And then she said it, Danielle. I don't know if you saw the video. She said it very calmly with a smile on her face, Danielle. It's like, well, we're all going to die. Anyway, I'm going to go golf. You all take good luck, y'all. Peace.
I guess my question is, like, did Republicans send that out in a memo? Just saying, well, first, remember, they told them to stop having town halls, right? Like Mike Johnson told members of the House of Representatives, stop having town halls because we have nothing good to tell these people, right? And they're just going to run you out of town. So she goes ahead and does a town hall. She's in the Senate, but then her response is just, well, we're all going to die. So, like, did they send this out as a talking point, Waj, do you think? Like, is this the new, because I said, folks, this is the Republicans unlock a new slogan. It's no longer make America great again. It's, well, we're all going to die.
And I think they're workshopping it. I think the new slogan is, well, you're going to die and I'll get a luxury jet from Qatar. Well, you're going to die, but I'm going to get a $60,000 watch like Cristiano. Well, you're going to die, but I'm going to have a $7 million income and salary somehow, like Margie Taylor Greene and Joni Ernst and others who are just, investing in stocks and dumping them and selling them when it's necessary to make a profit, right? I think this is Joni Ernst off the cuff being honest. And this is Republicans revealing who they are. Masks off moment based off of power and arrogance. They realize they have the House. They realize they have the Senate. They realize they have the Supreme Court. They realize they have the presidency. They realize they have the media. And they think they're never going to lose again. And so what they're doing is that they're gloating. They're teabagging America, right? They're like, ha ha. Yeah, ha ha. They're like a teenager just teabagging you. Like, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? And they don't care. They're revealing exactly who they are. And if you follow the Republican Party, as we have, because we're masochists, you recall Mitt Romney, the alleged moderate. Mitt Romney, his campaign was doomed in part by another, well, that was leaked. Remember that video that he did about the 47%?
Yes, right? He was at a dinner. He was at a closed door dinner, right? And he gets on and he's talking about, right, the average Americans and basically saying he don't care.
Yep.
He doesn't, they don't care.
And the reason what he talked about the 47% of Americans is like they're all poor, they're all on welfare,
And
they're
they're
all users.
uneducated.
This is how they think. And I think that's why it's very important. And that's why, in a strange way, I appreciate Joni Ernst saying it. This is who they are. They truly believe, based upon ideology and identity, that a majority of Americans, especially the blacks and the immigrants and the poors, are lazy, are inherently unworthy, are not destined by God or fate to succeed.
Yep.
They leech. And as such, they're just moochers. And it is not anyone's responsibility to take care of your neighbor or these fellow Americans. Like Mitt Romney said, the 47%, right? They're always going to be that way. And so, hey, y'all are useless anyway, and you're going to die, but I'm going to make sure I get mine. And then someone mentioned that she made it even worse. And this is how I know it wasn't.
How?
Did you see the graveyard video?
No.
The graveyard video. Okay. So there was a video where she tries to apologize. And what she does is, this is the best part. The next day she's on camera. This was yesterday, folks. The next day she's on a camera and she doubles down on it. And she says, well, then she uses Christianity. Well, we're all going to die, but with Jesus, you live forever. But the best part of it is she films it in a cemetery without realizing she's in a cemetery, completely tone deaf. And then people are like, wait a minute, is she walking? Is that a tombstone? So she was probably visiting like a cemetery, and then she decides to take out the camera and then do it. I saw it. I sent it to you in the outline. I don't think you saw it, but let Danielle see it in real time. Look at Danielle's face.
Hold 1 second, because I like.
Look at Danielle's face.
That's not right. Is that right?
That's right.
He was really in it. Oh, folks, hold please. I'm gonna try and pull this so that everybody can see. Keep talking, Wash.
So this Joni Ernst is up for re-election. And even though she's up for re-election, folks, just goes to show you their arrogance, their cruelty. This is who they are. It is an extreme. I've been calling it for a while, folks, a death cult. And when I said death cult, when I was on CNN and MSNBC,
I found it, by the way.
People said, oh, you're cruel. You're this, you're that. How dare you? I'm like, it's a pro-death cult. It's not pro-life. It's a death cult. And I give you no vaccines, rise of measles. I give you no regulations, airplanes going down. I give you COVID, voluntarily killing their own base for herd immunity. And now I give you Joni Ernst from her own mouth. Well, we're all going to die. And her, if you will, correction is this.
Hello, everyone. I would like to take this opportunity to sincerely apologize for a statement that I made yesterday at my town hall. I was in the process of answering a question that had been asked by an audience member when a woman who was extremely distraught screamed out from the back corner of the auditorium, "People are going to die." And I made an incorrect assumption that everyone in the auditorium understood that, yes, we are all going to perish from this earth. So I apologize. And I'm really, really glad that I did not have to bring up the subject of the tooth fairy as well.
And then she talks about Jesus, and she talks about like everlasting life with Jesus, and then she does it in a cemetery, and either she does it deliberately to troll or she just tone deaf.
Wash, she did it deliberately to troll, because then she adds, I'm sorry, and I'm glad I didn't have to bring up the tooth fairy. So basically, she is telling her constituents, buck up, you're all going to die. You need to figure this out on your own. If these people, here's the thing. Everybody always talks about the fuck around and find out. And I talk about the fuck around and find out. And we have said that we didn't need to be a part of the find out, because you and I and all people watching here did not fuck around. But this is what you get for voting for Republicans. This is what you get for voting for people who have told you over and over again that they do not care about you, about your family, about your education, about your health, right? Republicans are so here's the thing. Donald Trump is a liar. but their policies have been very clear, right? From Reagan on down, Republicans have been very clear about who they care about and who they don't. So I have no idea why you're sitting in a town hall saying we're all going to die, and your representative, your senator looks at you and says, "Ah, we're all going to die. Go pray about it." These are the same people. You brought up COVID. That Fox News said, well, if you really cared about your grandchildren, right, you would just risk dying for them, right? Like, we can't mask forever. We can't protect you, and you're already in the sunset part of your life. This is what Republicans were saying as those that were vulnerable, the elderly and those with pre-existing conditions, and those who were also Black and brown and considered essential were out there dying. Fox News said, well, you know, you're all going to die at some point.
Well, it wasn't even
These
Fox
people are
News.
absolutely fucking disgusting and depraved.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's a good receipt. It wasn't just Fox News. It was Republican officials who were trying to open up the country, right? And the reason why they were trying to open up the country was because they wanted to make money, and because Donald Trump, who knew how devastating COVID was, as we found out later in the Bob Woodward tapes, but deliberately lied to America and got people killed, right? Because he realized by keeping the economy closed, it would hurt his election chances. So he tried to lie. Remember that? You open it up by the spring, open it up by the spring. And what they were saying, not just Fox, but also Republican officials, well, grandma and grandpa have had good lives. Danielle ain't making it up. They said they've had good lives, and if you got to sacrifice grandma and grandpa for herd immunity, might as well. So much for death panels, but this is what's really important, folks. When she says, well, we're all going to die, she's actually, it needs an edit. You're going to die.
Correct.
I'll be okay, because all those individuals got tested, vaccinated. Ted Cruz and his kids were vaccinated. Everyone at Fox News and the Fox headquarters in the Fox building in New York, you and I know, Danielle, we've seen it from the outside. In order to get in that building, you had to show proof of vaccination. You had to wear masks. So as these people inside internally were vaccinated and masked, because Rupert Murdoch was terrified of getting COVID, outwardly they were telling people, who needs masks? That's the worst part. They don't even have the courage of their convictions. If you were perfectly fine saying, well, we're all going to die, then okay, Joni Ernst, you and your family, you get off of healthcare and you don't get vaccinated.
Correct.
And
we're
you
paying
go
for your healthcare.
You drink contaminated water and you eat contaminated food. Yeah, but they don't. Have you noticed that? And that's what makes it even worse. And this is who they've always been, Danielle. It's a death cult, an extremist party. And listen, even right-wing conservative movements in like Hungary and other places, they're extreme. They've been doing a research about right-wing movements. And we've done it on the show. We talked about the poll that came out that the right-wing movement, MAGA, in America is now as extreme, even more extreme than China, and about as extreme as Russia. But even those people, they believe in like climate change, and like they believe in giving their people some health care, right? Because, you know, they want to make sure that they can be dictators, but keep the people somewhat happy, like Orban does, right? Give them some social services. Not our Republican Party.
Nope.
Let them eat cake, not even crumbs. We all got to die. This is what we're dealing with, folks.
Oh, you want to know what else we're dealing with? Well, the people who are busy gutting our government, firing hundreds of thousands of government agencies, rerouting our tax dollars directly into their own bank accounts. Well, it's all being done by a fucking drug addict, right? So new reporting reveals that Elon Musk has been known to heavily abuse drugs. Musk's drug consumption went from well beyond occasional use. He told people that he was taking so much ketamine that it was affecting his bladder,
Jesus.
a known effect of chronic use. He took ecstasy and psychedelic shrooms, and he traveled with a daily medication box that held about 20 pills, including ones with the markings of the stimulant Adderall, according to a photo of the box and people who have seen it. And just a reminder, this is a man that was on stage with a live chainsaw.
Yep.
As a
with
way
glasses on.
With sunglasses on, because that's what normal people do indoors that aren't rock stars or at a show. Sunglasses indoors generally mean I'm on drugs, right? This is who has been in charge of our government. This is who has said that the American people are going to have to go through some tough times. This is who has all the keys to the kingdom, including our data. He is a drug addict. But thank God he's not black or brown, because I'm sure he'd be in prison for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, right? But when you are wealthy and white and you're a drug addict, oh, that's all the makings of a fucking genius.
And some double zig heils and the promotion of some white genocide conspiracies and competence and cutting regulations and dismantling government agencies such as USAID, which they say now has led to and will lead to about 300,000 deaths of children. All of it was preventable. Also, he can get some more contracts and take vengeance against the people who, tried to hold him accountable for safety, like the FAA chief that he fired. And as he's doing it, folks, I'm so glad you mentioned that, Danielle, as he's on ketamine, mushrooms. And by the way, these leaks, folks, they came from inside the Trump White House. All right. That's how we found out. So they're trying to dismiss it now by saying it's the New York Times. Where did New York Times get these leaks from? Inside the White House. And it's not the first time. There have been multiple leaks because people are fed up with Elon Musk, right? Like, he's annoying, he's obnoxious, he expects people to laugh at his stupid jokes. All this was coming out from the Trump White House. So we have multiple leaks already 4 months into the presidency. And here's this guy. I don't know if you saw him on Friday afternoon. We had just finished our show. And then at 1:30 p.m., they did the press conference. He looked high even in that final conference because he's not going away anywhere, right? He was looking up at the ceiling, Danielle, right, looking down. And this is the guy that Republicans, the pro-family, anti-drug party, allow to dismantle the government, a friggin' drug addict, right? So if you're a brown person, you will get kidnapped and sent to a foreign gulag on allegations of drug trafficking. But if you're the world's richest man on drugs, they will hand you a literal and figurative chainsaw to take away thousands of U.S. jobs, including the jobs of veterans, as he guts U.S. veteran affairs. And also remind people, drug trafficking, Abrego Kilmar Garcia, El Salvador gang members, right? All this nonsense. Who did Donald Trump also pardon? The founder of Silk Road, right? Ross Ulbricht, the guy who literally created the digital hub for international drug and sex trafficking. This is who they are. It's all projection. It's all hypocrisy. These people are like wolves in sheep's clothing, right? The Bible warned about it. If they read the Bible, this is who they warned about. Hypocrites, right? People who come to you as prophets, but are ravenous wolves. And you have a person like Elon Musk and Joni Ernst, who are part of a pro-death cult. And because people are misinformed in this country, and because people are terrified of Latinos, Black people, poor people, and transgender, they have voluntarily chosen to destroy themselves, Danielle. What can you do? It's the world's dumbest self-own. Like, we literally destroyed the dumbest people destroyed America, Danielle. Like, if we survive and if there's a turnaround and people study this era, it's like they will just sit there and go like, how can human beings be this stupid? And they will look at this era.
But you know what? Here's the thing. And I've said this before and I've written about this. I remember being in middle school and watching Schindler's List when things like this were required in middle school, and saying to myself, how could the people in Germany, how could people around the world allow for millions of people to be slaughtered? How does that happen? Right? Like, how do people look the other way? And now fast forward decades into middle age and adulthood, and everywhere that you look, you're like, oh,
I get it.
This is how it happened. Like, and remind you that during that time, they didn't have social media where things were in your feed all the time. You had to wait for papers to be printed and wait for news to come out. We know immediately, right now, that millions of people are starving to death because of a man-made famine in Gaza. We know right now, right, that millions of people are going to die because of the decisions that Elon Musk and Donald Trump and MAGA have made to hurt the most vulnerable people so that the wealthiest people continue to get wealthier because their greed is insatiable. And so when it makes you, honestly, the more that you look at these headlines, the more that you read these stories, it can actually make you really lose faith in humanity.
Of course.
Because I as a child, I remember thinking, and I asked my teachers learning about the Atlantic slave trade, how could people walk past other people standing on auction blocks that are being sold and go about their business and think that that was okay? And my teacher saying to me, well, that was just the times. As if that was like to excuse the depravity. And so when you say, oh, when this is studied, I'm wondering what teacher in 2060, 2070, 2080 will just say, well, that was the times. They didn't know any better. Meanwhile, we have more education and more access and more connectivity at this point than we ever had in the entire history of the fucking world.
There was a great tweet turned into a book by author Omar Al-Akkad, which came out recently, and he said, one day we will have all been against this. One day we will have all been against this, right? And as someone mentioned, Gaza, genocide in Gaza, fascism, literally the abduction of innocent brown people and deporting them to a foreign gulag. And half of Americans are like, that's fine. As long as, I'm doing well, and as long as the train is running and the internet's on, it's all good. And now Joni Ernst is saying, well, you're going to die. And I'm curious to see how many Americans are like, am I going to die? Or is my neighbor, the black, going to die? Or my other neighbor, the Latino? Or my other neighbor, the gay? That's where we are, Danielle. We are revealing the capacity of human beings to be undeniably cruel and sociopathic, which has always existed. And when Joe Biden used to say, this isn't who we are, I always took affront to that, because I'm like, no, this is who we've always been, right? America has always been a marriage between kindness and cruelty, welcoming and exclusion, right? There's a Statue of Liberty and there's also slaves. And that's the problem, Danielle, is that our country and our leaders never want to confront and acknowledge the aspect of America that has always been this way. The one that destroyed the Native Americans, the one that, put women in the kitchen, the one that enslaved black people into chattel slavery, not just black people, also their children and grandchildren, right? The one that, like you said, used to bring the family around on Sundays to have a picnic around the hanged, charred body of a black man, right? And now that is perfectly fine, mocking and ridiculing innocent brown people who are literally abducted and suffering in a prison without due process, and also celebrating 1,600 insurrectionists who beat up cops and tried to overturn an election. This is also who we are, Danielle. And until the country confronts it and uproots it, it's always going to be this way. And you saw the white lash. We're witnessing the white lash. There was this brief moment, folks, after the murder of George Floyd, where this country is like, oh, these black people are getting killed like hotcakes by the police. We should do something about it. And America's like, whoa, enough. 1 year is enough. Now let's ban books.
I mean, it's, I say this often, that I don't believe that America, white America in particular, because I want to be specific, wants to look at themselves. I've said that rather than look at who this country is and who it has always been in the hands of white Americans, they'd rather shatter the mirror. They'd rather spread the lies. They'd rather burn the books and gut the history. They'd rather gaslight everyone else, black people, people of color, indigenous populations, women, and tell us that we're the problem, right? Rather than actually do anything. You say this all the time. If we're talking about equity, right, which is about saying that this abundant country has more than enough for everyone, and we're saying that means that everyone, right, can have access so long as those that are most wealthy pay their fair share, they'd rather burn down the village, the town, the state than do so.
Yep.
They'd rather, as Jonathan Metzl wrote, die of whiteness. And so we will continue to repeat the abuses of the past that become present over and over and over again. But this time, Waj, they're becoming increasingly magnified. It isn't just about repeating past ills, because it's now they are supercharged.
Yep, it's on steroids.
Now it's on steroids. And what was like, oh, this is bad, is now atrocious. It's now mind-blowing. I mean, look at this story that the president of the United States reposts the most absurd fucking lie about Joe Biden having been executed in 2020, the president of the United States, and says that he's a clone and that there are doubles. So much so, and people, again, we've said this, and folks have said, oh, that was the fringe. That was the fringe. And I'll never forget when Marjorie Taylor Greene said, no, I'm not the fringe. I'm the mainstream of the Republican Party.
And I believed her. And I wrote an article about that she is the present and the future.
And here it is in the New York fucking Times. Trump amplifies another outlandish conspiracy theory. Biden is a robotic clone. And folks, they go through this entire breakdown, and I'm going to read this part. Trump reposted a fringe rant on another user that another user had made on his social media platform, Truth Social, just after 10 p.m. on Saturday. The White House did not respond to requests for comment on the post about Biden, whom Trump has targeted for criticism almost daily, because of course you would. You've been president for 5 months now, and the country is in the tank. But of course, you're going to continue to blame the man that is no longer in the White House, because you can't take responsibility for any of your fucking poor, disastrous decisions. They go on to say this, that the president has blamed Biden for all manner of societal ills and assailed his mental acuity, including with the specious theory that Biden's aides used an auto pen to enact policies and issue pardons. Oh, guess who also uses an auto pen? Donald Trump and his entire administration.
Yep.
Then, just as a reminder, while sitting in the Oval Office with the president of South Africa, went on an entirely false, lying, misleading, white nationalist lie to the face of the South African president, saying that there are mass killings of white farmers, and that's why he had to import racist white Afrikaners and place them in Alabama, because they're been victims of genocide, while holding up photos of a completely different fucking African nation. Not even it being South Africa, but the Congo. And then they end this post by saying this, Waj, that the first 4 years in the White House were filled with false or misleading statements, because apparently we need to use more words instead of just one that would suffice, which is lies. According to one tally, folks, he made 30,573 of them, or 21 lies a day on average. And this motherfucker increased his numbers in 2020 and in 2024. So again, I say, America, you get what you fucking pay for.
This is as American as it gets. Donald Trump is the American disease. He's America's herpes, born and raised and bred in America. You can't get more American than Donald Trump. And if we are to be destroyed, we are destroyed by the monster that we in America created, right? That's MAGA. MAGA was created by the Republican Party. It's part and parcel of all of America's worst sins: racism, greed, paranoia, violence. It was put on a leash by people like John McCain and Mitt Romney. We'll unleash it, but we can control it. And guess what? It escaped the lab and it turned on its monsters and it ate them. And now it is the Republican Party. It is the entire conservative movement. And its avatar is Donald Trump, a man who's completely unhinged in his voracious appetites, who's beholden to nothing, no virtue, no grace, right? Not the Constitution. His own words a couple of weeks ago. Remember in Meet the Press? I don't know if it's my responsibility to uphold the Constitution. I'm not a lawyer. A president who literally says, I don't know if it's my duty to uphold the Constitution or due process, and a man who, we're spending time on this, folks, because no one else is spending time on it. I've retweeted it the last 3 days. This was Saturday night. That Biden is a clone post by Donald Trump on Truth Social. That's the president of the United States, as Danielle said. It was on Saturday night. No one's talking about it. This was the president of the United States promoting a QAnon conspiracy, QAnon, the same conspiracy that radicalized individuals to commit violence on January 6th, such as Ashley Babbitt. Another receipt I'll keep, Ashley Babbitt, a radicalized woman who came to the Capitol on January 6th to commit violence, who did not listen to the cops, who tried to break and enter, was shot in the head. Our taxpayer dollars last month, folks, went to pay Ashley Babbitt's family. Ashley Babbitt, a violent insurrectionist, got $5 million. And then they say, no reparations for Black people. We can't give money to the poor. Why should we give these kids food stamps, right? 1,600 violent insurrectionists were pardoned, right? And Donald Trump is open to giving them money. And so as this is happening, folks, I want you all to remember that Jake Tapper and the entire network at CNN is still promoting a book about Biden's health. And Jake Tapper is now going on right-wing media, apologizing to them that I missed the boat when it came to Biden's mental health. This is happening as we speak to the dude who is currently president. Speaking about Congo, Danielle, speaking about more receipts, 3 weeks ago, we have him on camera saying, what's the Congo? I don't know what the Congo is. I don't know what the Congo is. He admits it. Uses AutoPen, doesn't know what the Congo is, promotes the white genocide conspiracy, uses fake news to show white people being killed, which they're not. It was actually from Congo, promotes these conspiracy theories, spends about 25% so far. They're doing something called a golf tracker. He has spent 25% of his presidency golfing to the tune of about $30 million of taxpayer dollars. And he's fallen asleep, folks. He fell asleep at the Pope's funeral. The only person who fell asleep. Biden didn't fall asleep. He fell asleep while being filleted on his 100-day celebratory, King Jong-un cabinet, like praising him. Remember that? And he fell asleep while talking to MBS, who he also praised. He is the oldest person to be elected president. If he lasts the entire term, when he hopefully, retires or leaves office, which I don't think he will, he'll be 83, which means, Danielle, he'll even be older than Joe Biden. And yet, no stories today on Monday about President Trump promoting a QAnon conspiracy about Joe Biden being a clone. You can't even make this up. Can you imagine 4 years ago I said, yeah, the President of the United States of America on a Saturday night, instead of resting with his kids, promoted a QAnon conspiracy that Joe Biden was a robotic clone, and right-wing America believed it. What would you say, Danielle?
I just I feel so I say this all the time. I feel so crazy on Mondays, in comparison to every other day of the week, because like a normal person, unlike Wajahat, I take the weekends off, right? I do, for my own mental health, for my spiritual well-being, to spend time with family and friends. I don't watch the news. So on Monday, when I go through Waj's outline in the morning, I might as well go out to the fire hose and just put it inside of my mouth as it just fills me with fucking bloody acid, because that's how it feels.
Danielle's eye starts twitching.
Yeah, I start twitching. I just, I literally want to go back to bed because, it gets better. Yes, thank you, Daniel Newman, for jumping ahead as if you put together the clips yourself. Because on top of the fact that the man falls asleep, is costing us $30 million a fucking month so that he can golf and not be president of the United States. Oh, he also doesn't read. And I'm not sure he can, right? So there's that. But Tulsi Gabbard is now wanting Fox, the state television that it is, to turn Donald Trump's intelligence briefings into television shows because he's a fucking idiot, and that's the only way that he can ingest them. Why not just turn them into cartoons? Do you know what I'm saying? And put him in front of there with a sippy cup filled with Coke and his fries and some fucking ketchup, and then come back to him in an hour and see if he has any idea what's happening in the world.
First of all, it won't be a sippy cup. Well, it might be sippy cup as long as there's no straws, because as you know now, Republican men don't drink from straws because straws are gay. Not making this up. So now conservative men don't drink from straws because Jesse Waters of Fox News said drinking from straws is gay, but they will take huge, giant, expensive cigars, which people can't afford. So do with that what you will, America. And secondly, even if they make it cartoons with violence and all the women have huge, giant boobs and are voluptuous, right, and are blonde with skirts, or animated, of course, even then, I'm pretty sure he'd last 4 minutes. And as soon as you'd get into some like high level intelligence, you go, this is boring. What is this? Why do I have to learn about Ukraine? I want the big breasted girl back. Can she please tell me about Ukraine? And then he'll just drool and fall asleep. Folks, the fact that that's already forgotten. I caught that over the weekend. Tulsi Gabbard, and this is all coming from the White House, folks. But these leaks are happening now, right? The fact that Tulsi Gabbard, who also is thoroughly unqualified, right, to be our director of national intelligence, Russia literally calls her Russia's girlfriend. So, like, just park that for a second. The fact that she's like, oh yeah, this mother effer can't even be bothered to read his security briefings, can't even be bothered as the commander in chief to know about the daily intelligence. We have to find a way to make it entertaining for him. So we have to cut it like a Fox News style. Danielle, like this is where you want to bash your head against the friggin' wall. And then part of you thinks that we are such a self-destructive species. You could have had Kamala Harris. You don't have to like her, folks. It's okay. A competent Black Indian woman. We wouldn't have had this at least, folks. But people are like, Donald Trump, a fraudster who was twice impeached, who destroyed this country already, or a competent Black Indian American woman? Gotta go with Donald Trump.
Gotta, because it makes the most fucking sense. I just, I feel insane today. That is like all,
it's true. Yes.
That is like all that's all I feel. And and again, folks think that if we just do what Donald Trump says, if we just, give him sippy cups and and the violent cartoons with the blonde girl and the big boobs, and we just, make it so easy, like you're a mother bird just chewing up the worm and spitting it into his mouth, like maybe then he'll fucking get it. Like remember the law firms, folks, that we talked about a couple of weeks ago? The law firms that decided that they were going to bend the knee to Donald Trump and his just dictator mentality of do what I say. Well, guess what? They've all lost business. At least 11 major companies are moving away from doing business with the law firms that caved and signed deals with Trump. Even though, and this is what's funny, even though some of these companies are led by the executives who support Trump, they didn't feel comfortable now doing business with a law firm that would easily cave to Donald Trump, as opposed to, I don't know, upholding the needs and will of their clients. And so it just goes to show you constantly, it does not pay to think that Donald Trump is going to be your friend. Right? Like, it doesn't pay to think that Donald Trump is going to do you a solid because you do something for him. This is a take, and give nothing regime. This is why when you said at the top, Waj, and you're talking about, I'm starting to look at China in a different way, right? I'm starting to look at these, quote unquote, bad countries, and I'm starting to look at them a different way. Now, why do I say that? Because people will say, Danielle, well, what about what the Chinese are doing to the Uyghur population and these work camps and killing them and all of these things? And I'll say, and what is the United States doing to all of the Black men that are incarcerated in prison here, that are told to fight fires, that get paid 2 cents an hour, and then when they ever get released from prison, can't even go do that job, right? Like, at least the Chinese lifted up millions of people out of poverty. Right? At least Hungary gave back to some of their people. At least those that are in the Middle East right? Those nations that have wealthy oil money, at least they give, right, Waj, like a regular, a basic income.
I mean, it's all terrible, but they at least aren't as cruel as the Republican Party. They'll give you infrastructure, they'll give you public events, they'll give you food, they'll give you some level of income, some level of job, they'll get some level of health care. And like I mentioned, the right-wing party of the Republican right-wing party now, according to the data, is further right than China. So Danielle's not wrong that even China right now is not as extreme as MAGA. And MAGA now is neck and neck with Russia, and I think it'll just pass Russia. And Russia, folks, is a disaster right now, right? It's an oligarchy. He just takes everything. And speaking about the law, in addition to the law firms, Danielle, I don't know if you saw this, and well, two things. Speaking about there's no loyalty, Donald Trump, in the last couple of days, has turned on the Federalist Society and Leonard Leo. Leonard Leo, one of the most despicable DL villains, the man who has had like a 40-year plan to stack the courts, that Leonard Leo. Why? Because some of these cases have gone against him. So he attacked Leonard Leo and the Federalist Society that has literally given him these judges. Even that's not enough. And then just 5 minutes ago, I don't know if you saw this, this is how Republicans, this is why Joni Ernst is the way she is, because they'll never leave. Check this out. The corrupt Supreme Court has agreed to hear Republican lawmakers' cases seeking to exclude mail-in ballots received after Election Day. I'm going to repeat this. They have agreed to hear a case brought by Republicans seeking to exclude mail-in ballots received after Election Day, even if they are postmarked by the date. And what's happening with the USPS, Danielle, for the last 4 years?
Privatize. They want to privatize.
So if you, let's say, I don't know, mail-in ballots like I've done before, and you do it a week before the election, and because everything has gone friggin' tits up in America, and what took you 3 days to get the ballot in because everything is delayed now takes you 8 days, guess what? The Supreme Court is going to rule it won't count. And this, guess who it helps?
Republicans. And by the way, just as we're talking, right? No one is coming to America anymore, right? Remember that good movie, Eddie Murphy, Coming to America?
Classic.
Ain't nobody coming here anymore. Because not only, again, as I say, you're looking at these other communist nations, these dictatorships, and the ones that are able to continue to sustain, give something to their people. You may not have rights. You may not be able to vote, but you know what? You're not living on the fucking street. You got health care. You have education. So when you're looking at the United States right now, in comparison to these nations that we have been told to hate, to despise, to look down on, they are looking at us and saying, oh, really? Because not only is your poverty growing in the United States, guess what? Your life expectancy is also going down.
We lost 3 years.
So now look at this, where it says that the U.S. is the only country out of 184 to see a drop in international tourism this year. Everyone else is rebounding. We're projected to lose $12.5 billion in spending. This is done out of the UK, the World Travel and Tourism Council, that sets up the United States against other industrialized nations. This is going to get worse because guess where these people come to visit? They come to visit major cities. Major cities then turn that money into, for the MTA in New York City, for different infrastructure builds out in California, in Florida, etc. And now these people not coming because why? Why would you come to the United States and potentially get detained, right, at the airport, have your personal information searched, be harmed in any time? Like, why would you come here? And why, again, would you be sending your children to come here to go to university knowing that Donald Trump and this administration can pull their visas at any fucking time and also have them detained? This country, man, like,
Since you mentioned coming to America, I had to get this. We no longer have McDonald's. We're going to have McDowell's. And to quote, if you don't coming to America, you understand. We're not going to have McDonald's anymore. We can't have nice things. So we're going to have McDowell's. And to quote coming to America, I'm McDowell's. They got the golden arches. Mine is the golden arcs. They got the Big Mac. I got the Big Mick. We both got 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, and onions. But their buns have sesame seeds. So say goodbye to the golden arches. It's the golden arcs. It's McDowell's, baby. It's all secondhand stuff broken down. We're gonna basically be struggling to stay alive. We won't have the bird flu vaccine. So let's pray to God that the bird flu doesn't, transmit more to humans. It already has caused 1 death. Measles is spreading now. It's in Canada. So you got more diseases, Danielle. We're all going to die because no SNAP and no Medicaid. Climate change. I don't know if you saw yesterday some huge news that we're going to get record heat in the next 5 years. This administration does not believe in climate change. So
we're going to get about 25 storms in the Northeast this summer is what NOAA is predicting. I don't know how NOAA is predicting it because they've been defunded, but we're going to get an insane amount of storms, which are going to cause an insane amount of damage. And because we have got FEMA, those states are on their own. And particularly those that are welfare states, which are all of the red states.
Josh Hawley's state, Josh Hawley. That's why Josh Hawley 2 weeks ago was begging Kristi Noem for FEMA funding. Good luck, Josh Hawley, in your state. You're all going to need it.
So as we wrap up here today, you see what's happening in the United States. You see what's happening with our ability to take care of our own. We don't care because, well, we're all going to die.
We're all going to die. You're going to die. Not them. So you're going to die.
Let's take a look at what is happening outside of this country, namely the 2 places that are facing absolute devastation. First up, Ukraine. Ukraine launched a major attack against Russia.
Wild.
And guess who they didn't tell? Trump was not informed of a recent Ukrainian attack on Russia, the Hill's sister network News Nation confirmed Sunday. An administration official told News Nation's Tanya Nouri that the president was not given a heads up about the drone attack that a Ukrainian security official alleged destroyed more than 40 planes well within Russian territory, according to the Associated Press. Now, Waj, why would you think that the Ukrainians would not tell Donald Trump about an attack?
Well, let's go back to this real quick, folks.
Go back.
You do it. Go back to that. One more, if you don't mind. There you go. See this? This was a audacious 1.5 year making clandestine plan, basically a Trojan horse plan, where this drone attack, I don't know if you've seen the video footage, destroyed 40 warplanes. Like, it is, Danielle, it's remarkable.
Yeah.
Props. The reason why they didn't tell America is because they realized if they told Donald Trump, it would no longer be clandestine. It would no longer be confidential. It would be no longer top secret. You know why? Because they probably assumed, likely so, that Donald Trump would tell his buddy Vladimir Putin, who has parroted Russia's talking points. Trump, who met with Russia in Saudi Arabia and excluded Ukraine. Donald Trump, who here has basically been completely a poodle for Putin. Trump. So Ukraine's like, okay, we cannot rely on our ally, the U.S. We're going to attack Russia on our own. And they pulled it off. Now, my fear is Russia is going to do a massive counterattack. What will Donald Trump do? Let's see. Let's see what NATO does. And also Donald Trump being just a couple of days ago, he said, Zelensky has no cards. Well, he just played a big ass card right now and destroyed 40 warplanes.
So, I mean, look, it's not great, right? The world is learning how to deal without the United States, knowing that the United States not only is not your ally, but is your enemy. Not only is not your ally, is your enemy and cannot be trusted with any intel whatsoever. Look, if the New York Times is getting leaks from inside of the Trump administration about Elon Musk's drug use, if the New York Times is getting leaks about Hegseth wiretapping his own staff, and Kristi Noem using allegedly using what is it, lie detectors with her staff, if all of those things are being leaked, and this is coming from inside of this administration, and we already know that these motherfuckers are using non-secure platforms like Signal to share their information, you think that other nations are saying to themselves, maybe we should give the United States a heads up on our really important secret plans that we've been putting together for a year?
That
No,
Pete
I don't.
would literally copy paste in Signal and send to a reporter and his wife.
So, on top of that, like, while we try and laugh so that we don't cry all day, every day, because that's not helpful, these are the things that are happening. These are the things that go overlooked. More than 20 killed near aid distribution site in Gaza, health officials say. The Palestinians were shot and scores wounded as huge crowds assembled to try and get food from a new aid distribution center. I don't give a damn what your knowledge is of geopolitics. What they are doing in Israel is conducting a genocide. That is it. You don't open fire at aid sites. You don't blow up hospitals. You don't blow up schools. There are rules of engagements and rules of war for a reason, so that you minimize the amount of civilian deaths. We can't even discuss the amount of civilian deaths because at this point, it is hundreds of thousands. Just the reporters and journalists alone is into the thousands.
UN workers,
UN workers,
doctors, nurses,
food workers, etc. So when you look at this, you say more than 20 people were killed on Sunday, more than 100 wounded when they gathered to try and obtain food and aid. The incident was the latest episode to ensnarl the Israeli-backed initiative to establish aid-distributed sites run by American security contractors in the enclave. So they don't even care who is organizing the aid, because, here is America. Here is America in a nutshell. We're going to give you philanthropy and aid in one hand, while also supplying you with the bombs and the ammunition to kill the very people that we're giving you, that we're trying to give aid to. Make it make sense, Waj. Make it make sense.
It's a military industrial complex, and it's a blind spot that America has had. And someone said Biden and Kamala were responsible for starting it. It's true. Democratic establishment and now the Republican establishment. This genocide has been ongoing now. It's been a year and a half. This occupation has been ongoing for decades. The settlements have been increasing, and people don't like hearing this. It could not have happened without direct support of the U.S. Billions of dollars of U.S. aid, our taxpayer dollars, our weapons, our missiles, and our international support that gives Israel cover. And Israel, with this current fascist government, has openly said, the Security Cabinet voted that they're going to take complete control over Gaza and then move the population to the south. Folks, that's ethnic cleansing. All right, that's genocide. And as this is happening, what we've been talking about for a year and a half is this genocide and this occupation has caused violence to increase around the world. Anti-Semitism and anti-Arab and anti-Muslim violence. And yesterday we saw this horrific act of, it seems to be terrorism. I don't know if you heard. They say the suspect is Mohammed Suleiman, who threw, I think, Molotov cocktails, and burned 6 Jewish Americans at this rally in Boulder, Colorado, right? And you saw 2 Israeli embassy workers who were killed recently. You saw a Palestinian kid, Wadia, was stabbed to death a year and a half ago. You saw those 3 Palestinian students who were last year just in Vermont chilling. They got shot, right? So this is spilling over. It's madness globally, Danielle. And we as Americans can intervene and say enough. When will people say enough? We will always talk about it. I don't care what happens to me. I've been boycotted by all sides. But one day we will all be against this. You can be against it now, and you can raise your voice.
It's just, I mean, the depravity is sometimes, I'm telling you, particularly on a Monday, to swallow all this, to ingest all of this is just a lot, So we will leave you with just a shred of good news, as it is June and it is Pride Month, and Pride Month has kicked off. And while we have a regime that is banning everything that is not white, cis, straight, and male, we have Tim Walz that is issuing proclamations and saying, no matter who you are or who you love, you are welcomed here. Happy Pride Month, Minnesota. And I will say that there are more Pride events that I've heard about happening and more things going on, because I think that this is how people will show their resistance. You have to do something somewhere. But there are still, with all the amount of bad people, evil people, cruel people, there are still good people. I think that we are here with about close to 1,500 of them. Today, as you're watching Democracy-ish, Waj and I try and do our best to keep things both entertaining and informed. But some days harder than others. But we appreciate every single one of you, even the trolls that give us money, which apparently I'm looking in the chat and there were trolls that were giving money. And I'm just like, okay, we say every dollar counts.
I'll take your eyeballs. That's fine by me. The algorithms accept trollish eyeballs. Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you.
But also, it's also a point real quick as we end. Tim Walz is from Minnesota. Minnesota is not like hardcore blue. It's purplish. And Tim Walz and the Democrats had a narrow victory. And with that narrow victory, they've run a progressive administration, right? And they've proven to be popular. And Tim Walz is a straight man. He born in rural America, very white, married, has kids, hunts, was a football coach. And it just goes to show you that you don't have to throw everyone under the bus, right? You can have a Big Tent approach. You don't have to throw the woke under the bus in order to court the votes that so many Democrats are doing. There's a better way forward, something that uplifts all people. And so Tim Walz and others this month are showing you there's another way forward. And I think that way is the way we've tried to share and model on this show. I am a practicing Muslim, brown man, son of Pakistani immigrants, married to a woman with 800 kids. Danielle is a Black queer woman who's a daughter of Jamaican immigrants who drinks her fancy coffee. I make my tea. But somehow, folks, we get along really well and we work together, and we have shared values about, maybe saving and protecting this country and its freedoms, trying our best. Small things. So for those of you who have been joining us for the past 2.5 years, thank you. We now do 2 shows a week, Monday and Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern time. And on Wednesday, we do a midweek check-in. Danielle gets less depressed as the week goes on.
I do.
Monday hits her with a shock. But then by Friday, she's like, I'm used to it. I'm numb. By Monday, she's like, oh, God, maybe I should go to Jamaica. Maybe I should figure this out. But we have a Wednesday check-in, and that's going to be Andor season 2. Danielle,
no, it can't be Andor season 2 because I'm still behind. We have to do it. I need one more week.
All right, one more week. Well, there'll be some chaos then on Wednesday. But then next week will be Andor season 2.
Yes.
For those who has given us money, it goes a long way. We do this completely independent. The $2 from everyone, thank you so much. The views, thank you so much. I think, Danielle, how many supporters do you have now on YouTube?
I'm so excited because folks, you guys are the ones that are making this happen. So I am currently 800 subscribers away from 25,000. So fantastic. We hit 24,000 last week. We're at 24.2. So I'm 800 subscribers away from 25,000. You guys are amazing, and you just keep sharing and posting and liking. Margaret, thank you so much. And so we're getting there. We are like the little train that could. So we continue to, keep moving it uphill, but we are
25 is huge, Danielle. Congrats. 25 is big.
Yeah. So we're close. 800 until 25, folks. So
David wants my wife to comment. If you see my wife, you'll be like, how is she married to him? How did he get her? How does she tolerate him? It'll break your brains. So, but one day we'll have Dr. Sarah. We probably should do a medical show with my wife.
Good. I have not met Waj's wife, so I would love that.
She came on MSNBC once, and people are like, she should be on TV. Why are you on TV? I'm like, I don't know. So we'll do a medical show with my wife one of these days, and you'll be even more depressed as she talks to you about our healthcare system. But we will be back Wednesday, 3 p.m. We'll do a midweek check-in on Substack app, and then we will be back Friday at 12 p.m. Thank you to all the people who gave us money. The super chatters goes a long way. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Please like this. And Danielle is going to post this in about 1 minute. Please share it.
Yep. Please share. Have a good rest of your Monday. Thank you, Eric. We appreciate all the dollars from.
Oh, and also our Substacks. Go to Danielle's Substack, Digest, and mine is the left hook. And I'm talking to Crystal Ball in a minute. I'm 2 minutes late, but I'm talking to her right now.
I'm a minute late for my next.
All
Bye,
right.
guys.
Bye, everyone.
So grateful for you.